Hey Mentee, it's Dr. Norte. Welcome to The Well. This is a place where we discuss real life topics, how they may affect our journeys through medicine, and learn how to navigate them well using biblical principles. You ready? Let's go. Our topic today is one that is so important, especially with today being the last day of Black History Month. Right now, the world looks so crazy and there's so much negative rhetoric around so many different topics. One of them being our Blackness, our worth, our capabilities here within the world, and how we truly fit into our society. For many of us, these discussions are nowhere near new. We've heard them all of our lives, it seems. And most of us go on day to day just ignoring them, believing that they don't affect us and how we live. But I beg to differ. We've had to have thick skin. That was the only way that we knew how to survive. But whether knowingly or unknowingly, most of us have internalized societal ideologies about ourselves. And these subconscious truths change the way that we navigate through life, navigate this journey of trying to become a physician. They change the way that our world and our views of life are shaped. And today, and for the rest of 2025 and beyond, I want to remind you of who you are. And more importantly, I want to remind you of how God sees you. You may be in a place where you're still waiting for your first medical school acceptance or even an interview. Or you're waiting to see which residency program that you got into after submitting your rank list. Or you could be waiting for your first big job offer as an attending. No matter what position you may be in right now, know that you are chosen. I know a lot has happened up until this point, and you may be starting to doubt your abilities or starting to doubt if you've done enough to succeed. But it's a good thing that you don't have to do it by your own strength because you are loved. In a previous episode of The Well, I spoke about imposter syndrome. And I talked about how imposter syndrome truly weighed heavily on me, especially during my seasons of transition. It changed the way that I saw myself, and I was blinded to the way that God saw me. In that episode, I spoke about Gideon, who was a person in the Bible that God called a mighty man of valor. And when God said that Gideon could not understand, could not fathom why he would be called a mighty man of valor, because he didn't see himself that way. And a lot of us are like Gideon. Today, I want to introduce another person in the Bible who we may not speak about a lot, but his story ties into many of ours. Today, we're discussing Mephibosheth. Hopefully I said that right. To understand the full story of Mephibosheth, we're going to lay some groundwork, okay? So Mephibosheth was the son to Jonathan, okay? And Jonathan was Saul's son. So in a nutshell, Mephibosheth was Saul's grandson.
Roydell and Alberstein's grandmother.
And we need to understand that in those days, Mephibosheth should have been killed, because when a new king took over the throne, all the family members, especially the men, were killed so that the new king's throne would not be threatened. However, due to King David's relationship with Jonathan, he was not killed. He's first made mention of in 2 Samuel 4:4. And they first address him by his ailment, lame in both feet. And it's important to note that he was not born this way. When he was a young boy, his nurse dropped him while trying to flee from an army. And he had to live with a lot of shame because he was crippled in both his legs. He lived in a place called Lodabar. And if we look up what Lodabar means, it means little or no harvest. We hear about Mephibosheth again in 2 Samuel 9. And one day it is placed on King David's heart to say, who from Saul's bloodline, who is Jonathan's father, is still around that I can bless? And Mephibosheth's name is brought up in the conversation, and King David sends someone to Lodabar to come and bring Mephibosheth back to Israel. That day, Mephibosheth did not go back to Lodabar. He himself was made royalty, and all the things that he had lost or never could have even imagined belonged to him was restored to him back that day. He sat at the king's table for the rest of his days. His ailment meant nothing. Who he was connected to and how he was truly seen by his father was what redeemed him. I know a lot of you are like, okay, Dr. Norte, that was a nice story, but what does that have to do with me?
What's this?
Just like Mephibosheth, a lot of us identify through the lens of our struggle. Everyone could see that he was lame in both of his legs and determined the way to treat him based off of that, just like they determined the way to treat us based off the color of our skin. They kept him hidden in a place where they thought it would keep him from bearing fruit. In the same way, this society wants us to believe that we're inferior and incapable of bearing fruit. Mephibosheth didn't drop himself, yet he had to deal with the consequences of being dropped. Many of the societal structures that are put into place predate us all, but yet we have to constantly, every single day, fight against those barriers in order to succeed. But God, just like Mephibosheth, we will be elevated because of who we are connected to, because of our history. We come from kings and queens, land, riches, and wealth. Our Father is the true King of Kings. He himself calls us a royal priesthood. When you look up the name Mephibosheth, it means exterminator of shame. And before he was called by King David, he was carrying the burden of shame. Even though by his God-given name, he was called to demolish it. On this last day of Black History Month, I want you to sit in your God-given name and identity so that you can see yourself the way that he sees you, so that you too can soar upon wings, so that you too can tell mountains to move, so that you can tell the winds and the storms to cease. You are powerful, and you were called to sit at royal tables, not because I said, but because he did. Amen? Amen.
Let the church say amen.
I took the time today to look up the meaning of my name. And I want you to do the same. And I want you to take some time and write down the meaning of your name in the comment box. I want to see how powerful all of our names are. And if we work together, how much more powerful we can be. But most of all, I want you to see the way that God sees you, the way that you're moving through this society with your God-given name and identity. I truly, truly pray that this episode of The Well brought you a little bit closer to seeing yourself the way that God sees you. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. Our first edition will be released next Monday, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. All right, Mentee, I pray that this blessed you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.